Here is something nobody tells you about the American motel. The motel, that single-story, park outside your door, neon sign blinking icon of the American road, almost didn't need to be invented at all. Hotels had existed for thousands of years. They were fine. They were everywhere. And then one thing happened that made hotels completely useless to half of America. The Ford Model T. In 1908, Henry Ford introduced a car that average working-class Americans could actually afford. And once average working-class Americans could drive, they wanted to go somewhere. But here's the problem nobody had planned for. All the hotels were in the wrong place. What happened next, the wild accidents of history, the one furious family vacation that launched 1,000 franchise locations, the single movie scene that permanently terrified an entire industry, is one of the greatest origin stories in American business history. But here's the part that will genuinely blow your mind. The very thing that was supposed to save the American motel also killed most of them. By the end of this video, you're going to see every motel parking lot completely differently, and you will never look at a roadside neon sign the same way again. Let's go.
Let's establish something first. Before the car, Americans didn't really travel for fun. They traveled by train, which meant they arrived in cities, stayed in city hotels, and went home. The American countryside was basically inaccessible. America was enormous, and most Americans had never seen most of it. In 1908, Henry Ford introduces the Model T at $825. Expensive. But then Ford's assembly line kicks in and the price starts falling. By the early 1920s, brand new Model T costs as little as $260. Factory workers are earning around $5 a day. The car has become genuinely achievable for the American working class. And the American working and middle class absolutely lost their minds. Suddenly, you could drive. You could go somewhere. You could point your car at the horizon and just see what was out there. The American road trip was born essentially the moment the Model T became affordable. But there was a problem, a massive one. The roads were terrible. In 1910, there were essentially no paved roads outside of cities. Driving 50 miles meant navigating dirt tracks that turned to mud rivers when it rained. Getting stuck, fixing your own tires by the side of the road. The Federal Aid Road Act of 1916 was the first real government investment in American highways. In 1913, a private initiative called the Lincoln Highway became the first marked transcontinental road in the United States, stretching 3,389 miles from New York City to San Francisco. America could now, technically, drive from coast to coast. But the question nobody had answered yet was, where do you sleep?
Here's a piece of context that almost nobody mentions when they tell this history. Prohibition. The 18th Amendment went into effect January 17, 1920, and banned the sale of alcohol. City hotels, which had relied heavily on their bars for revenue, were suddenly struggling. And the roadside picked up a reputation for a certain kind of liberty that the city hotel simply couldn't offer. Here's how Americans solved the sleeping problem in the 1910s and early 1920s. They camped. Not glamping, not a nice campsite with amenities. They pulled their car off the road, set up a tent in a field, and went to sleep on the ground. This was called auto camping or gypsy touring, and it became enormously popular. Entire families, tents strapped to the running board, cooking over a fire by the side of the road. By the mid-1920s, auto camps were evolving into tourist courts, small cabins arranged in rows or U-shapes along the roadside. You paid for a cabin instead of camping, a real bed, a private space, maybe a small bathroom, and right next to the cabin, a covered parking space for your car.
The car and the room were adjacent. Park here, walk in. That specific relationship between the automobile and the sleeping space, that is the DNA of every motel that has ever existed. Okay, hold on. I want to ask you something before we go further. Think about the last motel you stayed in. Was it a Holiday Inn off the highway? Some quirky independent place with a vintage neon sign? A Motel 6 because the price was right? Or a sketchy one on a road trip where you slept with one eye open? Drop it in the comments. By the end of this video, I promise it'll mean something completely different. His name was Arthur Heineman. Heineman was an architect based in California, and in 1925, he did something that sounds almost too simple to be historically significant. He took the word motor and the word hotel and smashed them together into a single new word, motel. On December 12, 1925, the Milestone Mo-Tel opened in San Luis Obispo, California, roughly halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco on the old El Camino Real highway. Heineman designed it entirely around the automobile. Individual bungalow-style cabins in a U-shape around a central courtyard, each one with a private covered garage attached. The price was approximately $1.25 per night. A decent city hotel in 1925 cost between $3 and $5. Heineman had created something that cost a fraction of that, required zero formality, accommodated the automobile as a first-class guest alongside its owner amidst its owner, and gave the American family traveler something the hotel industry had never bothered to design for: complete, unpretentious convenience.
There's something important to understand about why the word motel stuck. Because motor hotel or auto court or tourist cabin all describe the same thing. But motel was shorter, instantly understood, and it carried within it the promise of the entire experience. Your motor and your hotel in one word. Clean, fast, efficient. The word did the marketing all by itself. Through the Great Depression, when traveling Americans needed affordability above everything else, the motel only grew. While grand hotels in cities were emptying out, the roadside cabin offered something no financial crisis could kill: cheap, private, functional shelter for people who still had to move. Traveling salesmen, migrant workers, families chasing work. The motel served them all. By the late 1930s and through the 1940s, motels are multiplying across the American highway network. Independent operators, a family here, a veteran there, buying a roadside lot, building a row of cabins, putting up a sign. No franchise, no corporate standard. Every motel its own unique expression of one family's bet on the American road. It was messy, it was inconsistent, and it was beautiful. Now, fast forward to the summer of 1951. A Memphis, Tennessee businessman named Kemmons Wilson loads his wife Dorothy and their 5 children into the family car and sets off on a road trip to Washington, D.C. And the trip is a disaster. Not dramatic, not dangerous, just a slow, grinding, infuriating disaster. The kind that comes from running into the same problem every single stop with no solution in sight. Every single night, the motels charge them extra, $2 additional per child. 5 children, that's $10 in surprise surcharges every night, on top of the room rate. On top of that, the quality is completely inconsistent. Some rooms are decent, some are genuinely revolting. Pricing varies wildly. Nobody knows what they're getting until they arrive. Here's the thing about Kemmons Wilson. He isn't just a dad on a bad vacation. He is a home builder by trade. He understands construction, standardization, and scale. And what he sees in those inconsistent, child surcharging, unpredictable motels is not a personal irritation. It's a market failure screaming to be fixed. Most people experience a broken system and complain. Wilson experiences it and immediately starts designing the solution. On August 1st, 1952, the first Holiday Inn opens on Summer Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. Wilson sets the room rate at $4 per night. Children under 12 stay free. Always. Not as a promotion, as a promise. Free parking, air conditioning in every room, a swimming pool, a telephone on every nightstand, a restaurant on site. Clean, consistent, predictable, safe. And that consistency is the entire revolution. If you stay at a Holiday Inn in Memphis, you know exactly what you're getting at a Holiday Inn in Cincinnati, or Phoenix, or New York. The product is the promise. The brand is the guarantee. Wilson had invented something America had never seen in hospitality, a franchise standard you could trust anywhere in the country. Wilson partners with a local homebuilder named Wallace Johnson to franchise the concept aggressively. In 1957, Holiday Inn goes public on the stock exchange. By 1964, there are 500 Holiday Inn locations. By 1972, more than 1,700. One family road trip, 5 kids, $10 in nightly child surcharges, that is the entire origin story. Let me tell you about the Holiday Inn sign, because the sign was not just a sign. It was a declaration of war on every independent motel that didn't have one. The original Holiday Inn Great Sign was a 50-foot tower topped by an enormous starburst and the words Holiday Inn in bold italic lettering. When you were driving at night, tired and done, that sign was visible from a full mile away.
Wilson understood something most motel operators hadn't figured out. Exhausted drivers make decisions based on what they can see from the highway at 50 miles per hour. The sign wasn't decoration. The sign was the product. Every Holiday Inn franchisee was contractually required to have the Great Sign. It became one of the most recognized commercial silhouettes in American roadside architecture history. The sign said, "Over here. We're consistent. We're lit. We're safe. Come in." It was so effective that Kemmons Wilson's competitors eventually had no choice. They had to build their own towering highway signs just to compete for the same exhausted drivers' attention. The Great Sign single-handedly created the roadside sign arms race that defined American highway culture for the next 40 years. June 16, 1960, Alfred Hitchcock releases Psycho. In the opening act of that film, a woman named Marion Crane checks into the Bates Motel, a quiet, isolated roadside motel run by a soft-spoken young man named Norman Bates. She takes a shower. You know what happens next. Everybody knows what happens next. In roughly 45 seconds of screen time, Alfred Hitchcock did something to the American motel that no bad press ever could. He made it terrifying. Not a specific motel, all motels. The isolation, the vacancy sign, the single road in, the manager who smiles a little too warmly. Hitchcock didn't invent those fears. They were already latent. He just pointed a camera at them and turned up the strings. Travel publications ran articles about whether roadside motels were safe. The American Motor Hotel Association responded publicly. Hotels rushed to install better lighting, more prominent front desk visibility, stricter check-in protocols. The motel industry was in full damage control mode, spending millions to undo what 45 seconds of Hitchcock had done for free. But here's the irony that almost nobody talks about. Psycho was, completely unintentionally, the best thing that ever happened to Kemmons Wilson and Holiday Inn. Because the more frightening the isolated, independent motel looked in the cultural imagination, the more valuable the Holiday Inn brand became. The Great Sign wasn't just visible now, it was reassuring. Meanwhile, the independent motel operators, the ones with the beautiful, quirky neon cactuses and the hand-painted cowboys, were caught in an impossible position. Too small to rebrand on Kemmons Wilson's scale, too associated with the shadowy reputation Hitchcock had amplified, and
too individual to offer the consistency guarantee that the franchise chains were now selling as their core product. On June 29, 1956, President Eisenhower signs the Federal Aid Highway Act, the bill that launched the interstate highway system. 41,000 miles of new 4-lane divided highways connecting every major American city. The most ambitious public works project in U.S. history. The motel industry was absolutely thrilled. More roads meant more travelers. More travelers meant more demand. The future had never looked brighter. But here's what nobody understood yet. Interstates didn't go through towns. They went around them. The old U.S. highway network, Route 66, US 1, US 40, had run directly through the main street of every small town along the route. Gas stations, diners, tourist courts, all built on the assumption that travelers would pass through their front door. When the interstates came, they bypassed those towns entirely. Towns that were bypassed saw their economies collapse within years. Motels that had operated for decades went dark. The famous stretch of Route 66 from Chicago to Los Angeles began its long, slow decline the moment Interstate 40 was completed alongside it. The iconic neon signs that had blazed for 30 years went cold. Pools drained, vacancy signs came down.
But the entrepreneurs who saw what was happening early built their new motels at the interstate interchanges. A new format emerged, the Highway Interchange Motel. Budget, functional, precisely at the exit. No charm, no history, no personality. Just a clean room at a competitive price, exactly where the highway told you to stop. In 1962, a motel company opens in the Santa Barbara, California area that charges exactly $6 per night. One bed, clean bathroom, no pool, no restaurant. Just what you need to sleep and drive again tomorrow. They named the chain after their opening price point, Motel 6. It's still open, still one of the largest motel chains in the world. On June 27, 1985, after years of declining relevance, Route 66 is officially decommissioned, removed from the United States highway system. The road that had launched 10,000 motels, tourist courts, diners, and gas stations, the road that had defined American travel for 60 years, is just gone. An unmarked asphalt memory stretching 2,400 miles through the American Southwest. And yet, the motel endures. Today, there are more than 50,000 lodging properties in the United States. The motel format, in all its variations, from Motel 6 to boutique highway inns to glamorously restored vintage properties, is still one of the most used accommodation types in America. Because the problem it solved in 1925 is the same problem it solves today. And here's the science. Researchers studying what psychologists call liminal space, the emotional states associated with being between places, have found that the Roadside Motel sits at a very precise intersection of freedom and security. You are free, on the road, in motion, no fixed obligations. You are also secure. A room, a locked door, a shower, a bed. The motel is where those two states hold each other. That's why the motel shows up in every American road movie ever made. It's shorthand for a specific emotional truth. You are between lives. Anything could happen tomorrow. And right now, the only thing that exists is this room, this parking lot, that neon sign blinking above the highway. No vacancy. Vacancy. No vacancy. Vacancy. In, out. Moving. Stopping. That is the American motel in 4 words. And here's the thing about 2020's America. The motel is having a comeback, not because of corporate franchising, because of Instagram. Those restored neon signs, those turquoise pools, those vintage room keys, The aesthetic that was nearly abandoned is now one of the most photographed things in American travel culture. Arthur Heineman's 1925 design language turned out to be timeless. It just needed a generation that knew how to look at it. So the next time you pull into a motel parking lot, cut the engine. Hear the quiet settle around you. See the neon sign reflected in the wet asphalt. Take a second and think about Kemmons Wilson, a Memphis homebuilder who went on a bad family vacation in 1951 and came home furious, who took the specific petty frustration of paying $10 in child surcharges and turned it into 1,700 hotels. He didn't set out to change America. He just wanted the trip to be better. The American motel was invented not by a corporation, not by a government program, but by a family on a bad road trip, a man who coined a new word, and a car that cost $260. That feeling of pulling into a motel parking lot and hearing the quiet of the roads settle around you, that's 100 years of American history right there in a single moment. And I think that's pretty great. Now, if you found the motel story wild, the next one might be the most visually spectacular origin story we've covered. We're going after the history of the American roadside neon sign. Who invented it? Who brought it to the United States? How one street in Las Vegas accidentally became the greatest collection of commercial art in human history. That video is coming soon. But for now, subscribe, share this with your road trip friend, drop your motel story in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.